Hello there, this is Dr. Clausen. Um, in these next 4 videos, I am going to take on a topic which is about how to resolve the competing claims that you see in the media about what things work, how things work in nutrition. This is the situation. It seems like all the time, almost daily, you get reports of some sort of food that you're supposed to be eating. It's high in antioxidants, it's a good food, it's a bad food, top 10 foods to eat, top 10 worst foods to eat, and it's hard to sort out which to believe. One of the major goals of this course is to give you tools so that you are able to look at that information and, without even being an expert, make decisions about what to believe and what to wait a while to see how things turn out. And the way that you can do that without being an expert is to use the types of experiments that have been done and to ask some basic questions about the quality and the number of studies that have been done. So that involves understanding the types of experiments that are done in nutrition. And this topic is taken up in your textbook. So we're going to work on that a little bit. So what I have put together is a list of 6 questions that you can ask yourself about information that you're getting. And once you ask those questions, you look for certain answers, and you can use those to make a decision as to whether or not you should act and how you should act. And these 6 questions are actually what's used by the National Institute of Health to put together guidelines for physicians about what they should be telling their patients. So you will be giving your patients and yourself and your family as good information as the doctors. So 6 questions. So what I'm going to do is work through those 6 questions and so that you can ask them and answer them based on the information that you have. And to do that, it really helps to have an example to work with. So an example that I'm going to use, you're going to be using a different example for yourself to practice, is to answer the question of should you take supplements containing vitamin E. So here is a supplement. It's actually a mixture of chemicals. It has vitamin D3, B vitamins, selenium, lycopene, vitamin E, and an advanced antioxidant blend, which you're going to read a little bit about in the Spotlight on Complementary and Alternative Nutrition. So the issue is the vitamin E. What does vitamin E do? Why is it in a supplement called MEDLINE? It's to support prostate health. Okay, so here's the information that the manufacturer put out to answer the question of why would you want to buy MEDLINE? What's it going to do for you? So they list all of these claims that they have for the components, and then down here they have an internationally acclaimed urological surgeon and men's health expert and say that he is part of the medical advisory board. Okay, and here's his quote. I recommend MEDLINE because it has been formulated with nutrients to support prostate and heart health, vision, energy production, and more. So, looks good, right? Here's a doctor saying that you should take it. Okay. So, the issue is with this vitamin E, because recently a study came out that said that taking vitamin E pills actually raises your risk of cancer. So this one study says you shouldn't take it, and they should get that vitamin E out of there because it doesn't support prostate health. It harms prostate health. But then, according to this website here, vitamin E increases risk of prostate cancer is junk science. Okay, so they go on to talk about how you shouldn't believe this USA Today report, or actually the actual study. Okay, so the question is which to believe. The answer is neither, and I hope that you will see why by the end of this series of 4 videos. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is go through those 6 questions one by one, piece by piece. The first thing that you need to do when you have some information that's making a claim that you're supposed to act on is to ask, what is the source of the information that I'm looking at? What you want is you want to only be looking at scholarly, peer-reviewed primary sources. Okay, so those things, 3 things, scholarly, peer-reviewed, primary, mean different things, and they're overlapping. So I'd like to talk about each term one by one. So first of all, scholarly sources. Scholarly sources are written by experts in the field. That's one part of the definition. Their audience is other experts in the field. And the purpose of the writing or the information, the article that they've written, is to advance knowledge in the field. So that's what we mean by scholarly. Okay, so let's go through some examples of sources. There's a lot of good sources out there that don't meet that definition. So for example, USA Today. It's a good source, but it's not scholarly because it's not written by experts in the field. It's written by people who are trained in journalism. Their training is how to take information and rewrite it so that it's entertaining and understandable by the particular audience that they're working for. So really, they are professional writers. They are not experts in the field. WebMD. WebMD is a good source, and we're probably going to be referring to it at some point in the semester. But what it does is, while it's written usually by people who have medical degrees, MDs, that's what it's called, WebMD, the audience that they're writing for is the lay reader. It's not written for other experts. And you probably all recognize that this is not a scholar's source. So when you are on the web and you're looking at websites, most websites they have agendas, especially if they represent an association of some sort. So for example, if you have a website that is supported in some way by the American Association of Supplement Manufacturers, their interest is to represent their industry. And to represent their industry, they have to increase their industry's profits in somehow. Okay, so if there's ever any sort of conflict, then the website will present the information that they think will help promote their industry. Okay, so scholarly are written by experts in the field for other experts for the purpose of advancing knowledge in the field. All right, so this natural news is one of the examples that I was showing you. Natural news, it sounds good. Natural is good, and it probably even has a .org. So it looks like it's a nonprofit, and if you read the About Natural News, they will tell you, I don't take any money from any source, so it looks legit. But let's go back to the definition. This is written by someone who is not an expert in the field. It's written for the purpose of, it's written for the lay reader, and it also turns out that it has an agenda. So the hidden agenda for this writer is that he has beliefs about natural is good and science is bad and a whole bunch of other kooky things, if you want to read more about it. So I think that if you just remember that websites in general, their purpose is to provide information for the lay reader, and that makes them not scholarly sources. If they're good sites, they will refer you to the scholarly primary resources that they're talking about, and that's very helpful. And that's actually what WebMD will do for you. Okay. So, what is the next issue? It has to be scholarly, but it also has to be peer-reviewed. There are some scholarly publications, like abstracts, theses, where they are published in some format, but they don't go through a peer review process. So what is peer review? Peer review is a process. It's a process that a publication has to go through in order for it to be declared fit to be published. What peer review is, the peers are other experts in the field who are of their expertise is such that they can be reliable judges of whether the science that's in the paper is sound. And specifically, what they look at is whether or not the conclusions that are in the paper are justified by the data. And if those two don't match, they will reject the paper and it will not be published. So the reason that this is good is because if it's peer-reviewed, it means that the conclusions that are in there are as good as anyone could, are true, as judged by a panel of 3 or 4 anonymous experts in the field. So if they look at the paper and they say these conclusions are sound, then that's about as good as you're going to get. Okay, so here's the process. An author is working in the lab and usually with a whole bunch of other people. They put together their research, sit down and write it, and they send it to an editor. The editor takes a look at the paper, and if he decides that it fits their journal, if it's the Journal of Thoracic Surgery, it has to be about thoracic surgery, then he will read enough about it that he knows who the experts are in the field that would be suitable for taking a look and checking out the science. So then he mails out, emails these days, he mails out the paper to the reviewers, and the original author has no idea who the reviewers are. It's done totally anonymously so that the reviewers feel free to say whatever they want to say. So they read it, and if they agree that the conclusions match the data, then they approve it, send it back to the editor, or they may say, we don't think enough experiments have been done to warrant these conclusions, or in the worst case, the author doesn't know what they're talking about and they misinterpreted the data in some way, in which case it will be either sent back for revisions, go do some more experiments, try again, or just outright rejected. So that's called the peer review process. So, how do you know when an article is peer-reviewed or not? Well, you could actually look and see if it's peer-reviewed. If you go to the journal, the website for the journal, If it's peer-reviewed, they will either say it directly. So here this one says it's a peer-reviewed journal. Done. Or you might be able to figure it out indirectly. So here's cancer prevention research, and it doesn't say anywhere in here that it's peer-reviewed, even when you go into about the journal. I looked. But what you can see is down here it says information for reviewers. And why would it be why would that be there unless it were peer-reviewed? So you can sort of guess that it's peer-reviewed. All right, so that's the hard way. And if you get into one of those situations where it doesn't say it explicitly, I suppose you could call up the journal and say, are you peer-reviewed? Okay, that's not much fun. So there is a shortcut that you can do. So let me, hold on. Okay, so what you can do is you can use a database, a scholar that only searches and gives you articles. It only gives you articles that are scholarly and are peer-reviewed. It won't give you results from anything else. It won't give you Time articles, USA Today, etc. So if you use that, and if an article is listed in your search results, boom, you're done. It's peer-reviewed, it's scholarly, you don't need to worry about it. So that's why I would encourage you, actually require you, to use one of these peer-reviewed indices when you are looking for articles for your projects. So examples of peer-reviewed search engines, actually their databases are MEDLINE and PubMed. Our library subscribes to MEDLINE and uses a browser for MEDLINE that I think is a little bit more user-friendly, allows you to do better things than the free version, the PubMed version. So I'm going to show you how to use the library's access to MEDLINE. The interface is nicer. Google, right, when you search it, you get websites. That's what's great about Google. It gives you everything, and then you can pick and choose what you want. Google Scholar sounds like it's going to give you scholarly sources too. What's the matter with that? But what it does is it gives you duplicates, and it also will give you things that are not scholarly. So it takes websites and adds to it scholarly articles, which you may not get from just searching Google. So it's not what you want. There's also some search engines and databases that you can access through our library, which will give you the option, I only want to look at peer-reviewed, or I want to look at peer-reviewed and stuff in the press, and that way you can look at old newspaper articles and things like that. And an example of that our library subscribes to is called Academic Search Premier. And it's also multidisciplinary, whereas MEDLINE is restricted to only journals that publish on topics that are related to medicine. And for this course, has a heavy medical influence focus. We are going to use, that's why we're going to use MEDLINE. All right, so I'm just going to show you now how to go to MEDLINE, but first I am going to actually give you your assignment. This is an assignment that I want you to complete before you get to class, and we are going to use the information that you get from completing this assignment in class so that we can evaluate some functional components. Okay, so what I want you to do is to find peer-reviewed scholarly articles that present the evidence that a functional component or food, and here's the functional components and foods that I want you to focus on, affect memory. Memory, just like thinking type memory. Okay, so which one it is that I want you to do depends on what symbol was on that 3x5 index card that I gave you on the first day of class. So if your symbol was a diamond, I want you to take omega-3 fatty acids. If your symbol was a heart, do it anthocyanin. If your symbol was clubs, isoflavone, and if your symbol was thiamine, then if your symbol was spades, then please choose thiamine. So you are going to search the database, MEDLINE, for primary peer-reviewed scholarly articles that deal with the effect of, say, omega-3 fatty acids on memory. Okay, so let's go forward in a minute. So if you could just stop right now and write down what your assignment is. Make sure you get the spelling right, because I'm going to go on in a minute and we're actually going to ask you to use it. So in these videos, anytime you see this symbol pop up, it means that I'm going to ask you to do something, and I literally want you to go to your YouTube video controls and pause the video so that you can do what it is that I'm asking you to do. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video now. Alright, so what we're going to do now is go to MEDLINE. So let's start from the library's website. All you have to do is umbc.edu/library, and that will take you there. Okay, so if you could, probably what you're going to want to do is split the screens. So I think from up here you can do show windows side by side, and that will allow you to put this video on one half and put your browser page on the other half so that you can follow along with me. Okay, so go ahead and on that browser page, split the screens here. Let's just do it. Okay, I've got some different things going on here. Alright, so here's the browser screen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, for my purposes, I want to look at vitamin E and prostate, effect on prostate cancer, so I can see what's going on with that. So starting from the library's homepage, what you're going to do, this is the way it looks, is you want to look for a journal article database. Okay, you're eventually going to find an article, but let's just go right to the database instead. You can, if you can remember it, type in MEDLINE right here and it will take you right to it. If you can't remember what it's called, or if you want to look for other databases that are on similar topics, you can use this subject guide. I'm going to show you that, so it will always be there. Okay, so here's the subject guide. You start with what subject you want. We are in the biological sciences here. I think there's probably health too. And then article databases is what we want. By the way, there's some, science dictionaries, science encyclopedias. There's a lot of good things on these pages. So here's that academic search Premier I was telling you about. But we want to use MEDLINE because that's going to give us access to the most medical journals. The other one, Web of Knowledge, you can find like articles on plants and ecology, but you will not find the hardcore medical journals, which is what we're going to be using. So go ahead and click on MEDLINE. Okay. And here we go. So EBSCO. EBSCO is a browser. MEDLINE is the database. And using EBSCO, you can search a bunch of different databases. It's useful because it has some advanced search functions built in, and also because using these types of studies, you can narrow down what you're looking at, which is really helpful when you have 3,000 articles pulled up by search. So for me, what I want to do is I want to search for what articles are in this database that talk about vitamin E and prostate cancer. Okay. So you can search, just put it out there, see what you get. Or you can specify where you want those terms to appear in various areas of the source. Okay, these subject headings are very complicated and they have very precise definitions. You could try subjects, that works okay. You could try all text, that will search everything, or you could just leave it blank, which will do the same thing. But the abstract is the place where the author writes down what he or she thinks is the absolute most important bare bones part of the article. It's like a summary, a one paragraph summary. So my thinking is that if an article doesn't think vitamin E is important enough to put in the abstract, I don't want to see it. And likewise, it has to be about prostate cancer. I don't want to know about vitamin E and skin diseases or things like that. It's got to be like one of the most important points of the study was prostate cancer. So I'm going to put that in the abstract too. Now, if you want to refine it even further, oops. If you want to refine it even further, then you can put it in the title. If vitamin E is not in the title, it's not going to work. And as a matter of fact, I know how this is going to turn out, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. It's got to say vitamin E and prostate cancer in the title. Okay. So then you execute your search. All right. And let's see what we get. Okay. So when I did that search, I ended up with 78 different articles. Okay. And you can see that each one of these sources, they all say academic, which means scholarly journal. So that's great. Each one of these hyperlinks, in turn, will take you to the abstract for that particular article. Okay. And later on, we are going to be doing that and looking a little bit more. All right, so that is how you go about getting, finding scholarly, peer-reviewed articles on a topic. So what I would like for you to do would be to go to MEDLINE, and instead of typing in vitamin E and prostate cancer, what I'd like for you to do is to begin working on this assignment. So type in one field the name of the functional component that you're interested in, and then type in memory in another one and use the AND function. And you should end up with a list of scholarly peer-reviewed articles to work with. Okay? So this symbol here means that this is the last slide. As soon as I exit out of the last slide to stop the recording, the screen will go blank. So if you want to keep the screen from going black and you want to keep it on this last screen for a little bit more, you should pause it now so to stop that. And this is the end.